It's funny with Peter, sometimes I used to crave complications. It's that risky side of me, you know. I used to want to, I don't know, go to a casino, take loads of shots and just see what happens.
I'm a police officer. I know what happens.
It's just a fantasy. Usually after I've had too many of these. It's either that or after I've been to his dad's house too many times and we've been talking about hernias and tofu recipes.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 237 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that thinks after allowing Bethany back in the show after Turkey, wonders what the extradition will be like for Stu if he goes to Germany. I'm Gavin, hopefully stricter.
And I am very disappointed in Tyrone, or maybe just disappointed in the writers of this show, that they don't know that China invented spaghetti and not Italy. Shame on them.
I think that's great writing.
How Eurocentric.
Because Tyrone would never know that. Perfect writing for the character.
Just because he's a mechanic, he can't know where spaghetti actually comes from?
No, because he's thick as fuck.
Well, maybe he shouldn't be. Maybe if he was a little bit more curious about the world, he'd be more curious about his children and would become a better father. And also, at this point, doesn't everybody know that pasta was invented in China?
Tyrone doesn't.
Well, what's wrong with him?
He's thick as fuck. I mean, I don't know how. Do you want me to say it different?
No, but people are going to hear it on the show and think that he's correct.
Nobody
takes
their cuisine knowledge from Coronation Street.
This is how misinformation gets started.
It's fiction. I think it's allowable. I'm going to give it a pass.
Well, not me.
All right, let's draw a line under that. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah, you don't sound like a sad little mouse anymore.
I sounded like a sad little mouse earlier on this week.
Yes, you sounded like a sad little mouse all week long.
Oh, no. It wasn't really all week. I was okay on Monday.
I expected you to, put on a little Russian hat and start singing Somewhere Out There.
Oh, no, I got a Chinese hat for that.
Fievel was a Russian mouse.
Oh, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the wee spaghetti mouse.
There's a spaghetti mouse?
You don't know? You need to speak to your writers.
Are you talking about the rat in France who
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
in Ratatouille that helps the ginger kid cook?
I'm high on NyQuil. I don't know what I'm talking about. How was your week?
Yeah, it was good. Work has been great.
Excellent.
Are you going to push the button?
Oh. I kind of wish I'd never invented this button now. Where did it go?
I don't know.
Oh, there it is. Auction talk.
Yeah.
Auction talk. I feel like it just encourages you.
To love my job? Yes.
And then talk about it on a Coronation Street podcast.
People like it. If people
Name
didn't
them.
like it, I don't know. You're the one who reads the mail.
For all you know, I make all that up.
Yeah. Well, remember last week, I was all excited because we found this Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom map from 1971 that's worth like $1,000.
Was that last week?
Yes. Believe so.
Was it?
Yeah. Or was it this week and we haven't talked about it?
I think that's more likely.
Well, earlier in the week,
There we go.
Earlier in the week, I was opening up this box and going through it, and I'm always like, the big one is going to be in this box. I just know it, and it doesn't happen very often. Like the last time it happened, it was months ago with that signed first edition Martin Luther King Jr. book. But this week, in the beginning of the week, I opened this box and
Or maybe last week, just to cover our bases.
I opened this box and right there on top is a poster-sized map of the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World from 1971. And like one of the last times it sold at auction was for like $1,100.
Who's paying that for that?
So that was awesome. Disney adults.
Okay, that begs more questions than it answers.
Disney adults. They're adults who go to Disney without children and like get married at Disney and
One's for the watching. Gotcha.
and also just like really nostalgic people who are like, oh my God, I had that map when my parents took me to Disney World in 1971. And, you know, the more ephemeral something is, the more expensive it is. You know, things that people would have probably thrown away after their vacation. Yeah. So that was really exciting.
Excellent.
And then today, I walk into work and Betsy says, oh, Sheila upstairs has some art she wants you to look at. So I go upstairs, I walk into the room, and right across the room, like I am immediately drawn to these 2 Frank Howell lithographs that are signed by Frank Howell. They're gorgeous. Buffalo Woman and Moon Shadow. These things are worth like $7,000 and they're just sitting in the storeroom. And I'm like, my heart is just all aflutter because, you know, this sort of thing doesn't happen very often. And here it has happened 2 days in a week.
Or
possibly
or
last
possibly
week.
2 weeks. Yeah.
That, you know, that the big one just appears before me. And I am very, 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 very pleased.
I'm resisting the temptation to make a joke about the big one revealing itself to you.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I'm calling that growth. Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that. Oh, so very exciting Corrie news.
Condolences.
Oh. Well, that's unfortunate.
2 weeks in a row, you have made me laugh during a Someone Has Died segment of Corrie News.
I think I cut that out from last week.
Yeah, you're going to have to... Well, you were going to cut out the table shaking anyway.
Sure.
Yes. Condolences to the family of Cheryl Murray, who has died at the age of 71. Cheryl played Gail's BFF Susie Birchall on the show.
Yeah, that was a particularly sad passing because it wasn't really announced until recently, and I think she passed away a couple of weeks ago. So it'd been a little while.
Yeah. Well, it's quite possible that the family didn't want to announce right away. That the actor John Amos died, and it was announced recently, but he had died a couple of months ago. The family just waited to announce it until after the funeral and everything and stuff. So
Yeah.
public announcements, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
A little unfortunate though, but yeah, condolences to
to the family.
the family.
Corrie and Emmerdale will be released early on ITVX from now on, permanently. This is a permanent change, not just every once in a while when they feel like it, or when the footy is on.
Or when the Olympics are on.
Forever.
Until they change their mind.
Right.
Or we all die.
To give viewers more flexibility in how they watch.
Let's talk about this schedule change thing
Okay.
because it's big news and it has caused
Some hubbub.
a rupture in the Coronation Street space-time continuum.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at
Also
all.
known as Twitter.
Doesn't bother me at all because I'm not on Twitter and because I watch on BritBox.
You watch on BrickBox at the last possible moment
That's true.
before we start recording this podcast.
Sometimes I even drift off to sleep halfway through an episode and have to rewind it and watch it again.
Still a little too early to be making jokes out of that, I feel, as we start recording at 8:40 on a Friday night, which means that I'm going to be up until probably 2 or 3 o'clock.
You can sleep in a wee bit.
For me, it probably doesn't change my viewing habits too much, and I probably still will watch it when it's aired because I like tweeting along. So even if I watch it earlier in the day, I'll probably still watch it when it's on live on ITV. I think it might save me some time on a Friday. I might get my notes and all that in order a little early, which means I'll be ready to record a podcast early, but you're still my bottleneck, so it's not going to make that much of an impact on us.
I love you too.
But I think for some people, I guess it's the end of an era where not everyone's sitting down to watch something at the same time, but God, it's 2024.
Nobody's watching everything at the same time.
Most things are consumed. I mean, I don't know how much live TV I watch. In fact, I don't watch any live TV.
Baseball. That's it.
Event live TV doesn't seem to be the crowd grabber that it once was. Or people are watching it online, or they're watching it at a later point in the day or an earlier point in the day. But this has been the way that EastEnders has been released for the last couple of years. And I think,
and Hollyoaks.
I think the most complaints that I've seen about it is that it'll result in lots of spoilers online on social media.
Already happens.
Well, the show spoils itself
Yes.
all the time.
All the time.
But the EastEnders example, I don't know that there's been much complaining about how the early posting on iPlayer has caused a huge increase in spoilers. And if you don't want to see spoilers, then you kind of stay off social media until you've watched the show.
Yeah, the show has pissed me off at times because, like...
Oh, me too.
When Seb died, like, before that episode was released on BritBox, they had already thrown up on Instagram him saying goodbye to the show and everything and
But they
stuff.
didn't release that until the show had aired. So it had aired in the UK.
Right. They seem to not understand that people in the United States and Canada are
no, they don't
watching.
care about that. They
Maybe
care about,
they should.
well, it's a very small part of their audience.
It could be larger, and then they could be like Doctor Who and get that beautiful Disney money.
Sure.
That might get the show.
They care about the UK, and so they should. What I take exception to is when they post about things that are major, that are happening or are going to happen before the episode's even aired. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it gives people a choice, and that's usually a good thing. I don't know that it's going to pull people away from
watching
it,
No.
or stopping to watch, and it might bring a few more viewers along. And who knows, maybe they will gravitate to the show at 8 o'clock on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
And finally, Corrie boss Kate Brooks showed her wife, Michelle Hardwick, around Weatherfield this week, as well as their two adorable children, before carting her back off to Emmerdale, where she belongs.
With the sheep and the cows.
And the
and
Dales.
also the farm animals.
Yes. Well, sheep and cows are farm animals.
And there be the joke.
And that's Corrie News.
And after those choppiest of choppy waters in Corrie News, we move into the plain sailing with a strong wind behind us in the feedback section that I like to call Everyone's a Critic. First of all, I must apologise to anyone who has sent mail to the Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan, 48827, because apparently it's getting returned.
Because people don't know how to spell Eaton Rapids.
That's not why that's happening. So I will sort this out this week and update. In the meantime, don't send anything to the P.O. Box. Then we got a review on the Apple iTunes.
What?
A 5-star review.
Oh, good.
From Leah G273, who writes, brilliant and funny.
Aw.
A must listen for Corrie fans. Helen and Gavin are hilarious and informative, but not this week. She didn't say that. I said that.
Okay.
Leah G273, to the best of my knowledge, can't see into the future.
Do you think she's related to Ali G?
No. Then Ali writes, not Ali G though. A great thing about being gay is not having to give a flying fuck what straight men think. You don't get a bonus for signing up new members, and no one is turning anyone against their will. I know these storylines can be too forced, but they have been laying the groundwork for Carla and Swain since September last year. It's being done well, and Carla deserves someone who won't knock up the babysitter on their wedding night. It's just sad to see how much hate there is out there.
Yeah. For the record, I don't hate it. I just hate this whole thing that we pointed out last week, that this keeps happening, where the storyline isn't two lesbians who are always lesbians meet. It's lesbian meets straight woman and turns her.
I think Sophie might have had a lesbian meets lesbian encounter.
Well, with Paula. Sophie and Paula were both lesbians before they met. And in fairness, Asha and Nina were both straight women who became bisexual because of the pandemic or something.
That's COVID.
Thanks, COVID. So, but yeah, my point still stands is that it just feels odd that it's never, except for that one time with Sophie and Paula, two lesbians. It's always two straight women or a lesbian and a straight woman.
Den says on Twitter, how angry Helen is over the fireworks but can't afford shoes issue is how angry I've been with the show since they put Billy back with Paul. I love how animated she gets, and I'm like, yep, I'm right there with you. We fight at dawn, and I voted 10 times.
I love you, Den. I'm so happy that I at least get to see you on the Instagram every once in a while, now that I'm not on Twitter, because it sucks and is full of Nazis.
Corrie Twitter's thankfully fairly free of Nazis. But
yeah, just give it a minute.
every time I stray away from it, I'm very quickly rushing back to the safe confines. Holly says, I've just rewatched the horrifying nuclear war film Threads on BBC Four, and Jane Hazelgrove plays Alison Kemp, the teenage sister of main character Jimmy. Worth watching because it's such a landmark film.
Yeah, you rewatched that this year, didn't you?
I watched it last year,
Oh.
and I watched it when it came out in 1984, and I am never, ever watching it again.
Didn't you rewatch it because you had just joined Threads?
Oh, maybe. That does sound like something I would do.
Because a lot of people were making fun of the social media network Threads because of Threads the movie.
Oh, I see it. I see the connection. Yeah, I guess the timeline maybe works.
Yeah, I think so.
Daisy writes, that was not red wine. And I don't know if there's bits from that message missing, but I'm just going to agree with Daisy.
That was not red wine.
I don't know what it was, though.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Neither do I.
Okay.
Let's move on to Noel. He'll take us home.
Okay.
Noel writes, it's been a while, but I was out of the country. Which country? I'm not at liberty to say.
Ha
Now for my pithy commentary. Surely I can't be the only one who expected Bethany's head to start spinning and the pea soup to be flying when she was struggling to breathe in the hospital in Turkey. She did look a little bit Linda Blair in The Exorcist.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes, especially when there was a broom handle poking out of her chest for some reason when she was hyperventilating.
Yes.
That's
what happens when you hyperventilate.
so creepy.
Gross out moment of the week. Gemma sucking kebab sauce off a Chesney shirt. Hopefully Mason...
I thought that was cute.
Hopefully Mason will soon be locked up for committing food crime. Cauliflower and sweet potatoes, Indian food? Totally beyond the pale. I've got to disagree with that. Cauliflower and Indian food's great.
Yeah. Middle Eastern food and beyond. The cauliflower is all over the map in that area of the world.
Anyway, Noel's written a letter here.
Yes. Bread Bites has the best cauliflower soup anywhere in the world.
I have a very bad feeling about what I would call It's Summer All Over Again. Carla and Swain are going to become a couple. Swain dies from whatever mystery ailment is being foreshadowed, and Betsy ends up in Carla's care. I don't like it, but there it is. As always, you are both the sunshine of my life, and there's no way out of here.
Aw.
Well, thank you very much, Noel. I really hope that you're entirely wrong about your foreshadowing of Swain's demise.
Yeah.
Surely they're not going to kill her off. They've
When
just given her a permanent deal.
Yeah. Although I have also kind of had that niggling fear in me.
No more dead lesbians. Unless
This is what the show likes
they're
to
killed
do.
by the factory roof.
The show likes to have lesbians turn straight women into lesbians and then kill them.
Well, that would be Carla that would be getting killed then.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I was thinking of Rana.
Thank you so much to Noel, Daisy, Holly, Den, Ali, Leah G273 for their wonderful feedback this week.
Cousin of Ali G.
That's yet to be proved.
They're both good at rhyming.
Ali G is?
I don't know.
Is
I
Sacha-
don't even remember that character very
Isn't
well.
Sacha Baron Cohen cancelled?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think it was only Rebel Wilson who was trying to cancel him, though. And I don't know.
Let's move on.
Yes, please.
Feedback is always welcome. Send us your thoughts and I will probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. Please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only in the interests of brevity. And now we'll podcast for coffee. Thank you to Jen for buying us our coffees this week.
Thank you, Jen.
Jen writes, your podcast is my weekly highlight. Really appreciate the hard work you put in. We just make it look hard. Thank you so much for buying us our coffees this week. We very much appreciate it, don't we, Helen?
Yes.
I am drinking my Just Peachy Peace tea, though.
Yes, and I am drinking grapefruit juice because supposedly it's good for my liver.
It doesn't taste very nice, though.
I like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Grapefruits?
Yeah. Well, it's the pink grapefruit, so it's got a little bit of sweet with the tang. You got the right grapefruit juice. Good job, Broomy.
You're welcome. The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/The Talk of the Street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. And we now have a Patreon site where you can also show us some love. Sign up as a friend of the podcast there at patreon.com/The Talk of the Street. But remember, you can always support the podcast for free and get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. But thank you so much, Jen. I am very much enjoying my Just Peachy.
Yes.
And now,
I suppose we should talk about the show now.
let's talk about the show. Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Our first storyline tonight is scenes from Weatherfield County Court. On Monday, it's Carla's big day in court for the ABH.
Swain.
So Swain meets her in Nina's Rolls and advises that she pleads guilty and shows some remorse. If she does that, she's probably going to get off with community service. But Carla snaps that she doesn't feel any remorse for what she did. Then Sally comes in looking for an early leave for her anniversary with Tim, but Carla...
We never get to see the anniversary date and whatever role-playing they get involved in afterwards. I'm very disappointed in the show.
I don't think I need to see the role play. I just need to listen to them talk about it for a few minutes.
And see them wearing their costumes.
That helps. It's still a tough wank. But Carla, who doesn't want anyone to know about her court appearance, claims she has a meeting and instead puts Sally in charge. At the factory, and Sally in charge is hilarious.
Well...
At the factory, Sally is surprised when a customer arrives looking for Sarah, who's in Turkey, and Carla, who's MIA. Sally phones Carla when a passing Betsy loudly explains that Carla's up in court for EBH on a youth, and that's enough to send the customer fleeing for the door. The deal is off. So Carla gets offered community service after all, after pretending to be sorry, and after bragging about how she wasn't really sorry to Ryan, the lad's dad overhears, and he's fucking furious.
As you would be. As you would be.
Yeah.
Even if your kid's a dick, you'd be furious at that.
Yeah.
And he was a dick.
It's insulting.
Yeah. And also, even if your kid's a dick, you still love them.
Right.
So you don't want them to be hurt by
Exactly.
Carla.
And her
Gobby mouth.
and her strange physics-defying door that she opened up on this poor BMX bandit.
Yes.
In the same scene, Carla hears a voicemail and knows Betsy's grass are up to the client. Carla calls the dad a loser, and she and Ryan leave. When she gets back to the factory, she immediately fires Betsy. Betsy tells her to suck her balls and storms off. So Carla, so sick with today, sends all of the knicker people home in a rage. When the place is empty, Carla gets a visit from the BMX bandit's dad. Yet another situation that could be avoided with decent security at the factory.
But also, how does he know where she works or where she lives? Because he doesn't follow them out. We don't see him follow them out immediately when they leave. They have a taxi waiting. There's no way he could have gotten to his car and followed the taxi back to Coronation Street.
Probably comes out in the proceedings.
Why would where she lives or where she works come out in the
Because
proceedings?
you confirm who you are and where you live and where you work and things like that.
Really? I don't think I've ever heard somebody give their address in court before.
No, but maybe mention where they work. Your name for the record. It's all for the record.
Yeah, your name for the record, and that's it.
No.
All right. Well, maybe in your country.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about.
That's true.
D.I. Costello asks Kit to go through the contents of Joe's laptop. This is all meanwhile, though, Helen. This isn't at the same time. This is...
Right. Why is he asking Kit? Kit's not the head detective on this case.
Not yet.
Not yet, but still. He shouldn't be asking Kit to do something on a case he's not on.
Well, Kit's been working on this case
I suppose.
as well.
I suppose.
And Kit quickly finds a folder named Betsy, and he quickly calls Swain. When she gets there, she sees the extent of the threatening messages that Joel's been sending to Betsy. D.I. Costello thinks this is a clear conflict of interest.
Which is true.
And despite her protests, he takes her off the case and puts Kit in charge instead until they find another DS, maybe the one with the fringe. Outside the factory, Swain sees Betsy and asks why she never explained about the seriousness of the situation with Joel, and Betsy dismisses it, saying that she wasn't scared of him and lots of bad things have happened to her and her mum only cares because it's her job, and she explains that Carla fired her.
Remember last week when Betsy realized her mom actually did love her and that everything she does for her, like a Bryan Adams song?
Thank you for saying that, which means I don't have to sing it.
And, and they decided to actually get along and be loving to one another. That was last week? And now all of a sudden Betsy's a cow again?
Betsy changes on a ninepence.
For no reason.
And she's been doing it since she's joined the show. Kind of like a teenager, I guess.
It kind of cheapens the really beautiful scene of them coming together that happened last week or maybe the week before. I don't remember. But it happened. And now it means nothing.
Well, it means nothing on Monday. I think it picks up, though, again, doesn't it?
I suppose.
So, Swain bursts into the factory as the BMX bandit's dad is threatening Carla, and she throws him against a wall and arrests his sorry ass. The police descend on the factory as the dad is carted off to the station. Swain leaves Carla with Ryan, but later she goes round to see how Carla is, and the two of them get wired into the Vino Collapso. Carla apologises for being snippy and thanks Swain and gives Betsy her job back with a pay rise. She explains that her difficult mood was mostly down to her divorce from Peter, and she talks about the length of time they were together and apart and together, but this feels final, and she's sad and a bit lost and nearly 50. She asks Swain if there was ever anyone else after her Becky, but there hasn't been, not even casually. Swain doesn't do casual. Betsy and her job are her focus, despite neither of them being interested in her. And she really opens up to Carla about how she deals with dangerous situations like today, and how she doesn't give her own life much value, so it's no big deal if she loses it. And she realises how horrible that sounds to say it out loud. Am I a bad person, she asks. Carla thinks she just sounds lonely, and she gives Swain a hug. and the two of them look deep into each other's eyes for just a moment too long, and Swain hurriedly leaves while Carla wonders what that strange feeling in her underpants is. Quite a beautiful moment, that.
Yeah.
I really felt that Vicky Myers and that scene there, that's why it was a great idea to make her a permanent character.
Yes.
Because she was fantastic.
She really was. She did a really great job. I kind of hated that there was music, though. That song playing in the background was very distracting.
Mr. Blobby.
I wish it was Mr. Blobby.
Or Bob the Builder.
So romantic.
Just going to put on this Bob the Builder CD. Just to give it a bit of ambience.
Because there's no music playing when Swain walks in and Ryan walks out. There's no music there. And then all of a sudden, you know, when Swain's there and drinking wine, Carla decides to dim the lights and put on some soft pop.
Isn't that what you do when you're having people round for wine?
Right, like your friend.
Yeah, you don't want,
dim the lights when your friends come over.
You don't want horribly bright lights to sit and get drunk under, do you? Nobody wants that.
Dim the lights and put on some soft Sarah McLachlan-like music.
Put on a bit of Simply Red and wait for nature to take its course.
This is what happens
when
when
Bob the Builder.
This is what happens when you and Steve go out for coffee.
No, but we're not drinking wine and we're not doing it at night. We're in public. You never go round to a friend's house and have a drink when you were drinking and they put on some music and
dim the lights?
Well, not dim the lights, but not turn every light in the house on.
No, but not every light in the house was on to begin with. And we would listen to music, but it wouldn't be that music, because that music was not the kind of music that we listened to.
So it's just because it's not the music that you listen to, that's what you're taking exception at.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't.
Well, good. I'm glad.
No, it wasn't fun music. It was romantic music, and it was kind of cheesy romantic music.
It has to be fun music.
When you're hanging out with your
But
friends,
like
yeah.
A Weird Al album.
You don't
That's
like
not
Weird
fun.
Al.
That's hell. That's hell on earth.
No, like, I don't know, Pink or the Black Eyed Peas. I'm just trying to think of back in the day.
She probably
sort of
just had her
music.
phone on shuffle. And then that's not all she had on shuffle later on, am I right?
It was just like we're gonna go so hard on making this a romantic scene when all it needed was for this conversation between these two people and then an extra long hug.
To be honest with you, Helen, I didn't even notice that there was music in that scene.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. You're not the most observant person
My attention
in the
was
world.
elsewhere.
Yes,
I'm
on
making
your
this sound
pants.
like I was leering over this. I absolutely wasn't.
Sure you
I
weren't.
wasn't.
Sure you weren't. I noticed the lights were dimmed in here as well.
The light was off. That's always the best way. Although sometimes that means you have to go looking for it. I suggest that we move on.
Yes, please.
But it was a lovely scene. Music notwithstanding.
And lighting. What I'm saying is you don't have to go that hard when you should trust your actors to know what they're doing and to convey what these characters are feeling without dimming the lights and putting on romantic music in the background, which Carla wouldn't do hanging out with a friend.
On Wednesday, in Nina's roles, Ryan thanks Swain for coming over to see Carla last night, and Swain is weird about it and rushes out. Carla gets back to the flat to find Ryan singing along to something. That was never explained.
No, it really
Bob
wasn't.
the Builder, he sings.
And he was also dancing or doing something with his arms, like to the beat of whatever it was the song was that he was.
You're right, that's dancing. You've described dancing.
It felt more aerobic than rhythmic.
I'm not going to describe what it looks like you're doing at the moment, but you're using both hands. Ryan is worried that Carla didn't sleep well last night and explains how Swain was dead awkward in the cafe earlier, but then Carla is dead awkward too. Ryan doesn't know what to think. Later,
Yeah, he does.
Betsy finds Carla in Nina's rolls, and Carla confirms that she's got her job back and gives her some money to get the fucking lattes in. She goes to the station to speak with Swain. She was expecting a call about the BMX Bandit's dad, and Swain confirms that he's been charged and Carla should be safe. Carla, though, wants to talk about last night, and Swain, who's at work, takes her to the interview room. Carla wonders why Swain has been avoiding her, worrying that Swain thinks Carla is a tourist. But Swain doesn't want a post-mortem. I didn't really know what a tourist was. I guess I can figure it out.
A straight woman trying a little lesbianism on the side.
Ah.
Yes.
They had a moment and it's gone.
I'm pretty sure Paula called Tracy a tourist after their little fling.
Carla doesn't want this to jeopardise their friendship, though, and Swain agrees, thinking they were both at a low ebb, and they agree to draw a line under it. They meet in the pub later, but when Betsy offers to buy Carla a drink, she quickly makes her excuses and leaves, and Ryan is now totally convinced that something's going on between the two of them. Swain is considering texting Carla, but Betsy comes over to apologise for her behaviour and promises to step up. It's just the two of them. Now Mum's gone, she says. See, that was a lovely little moment.
Yeah.
So Swain deletes the text. At home, Ryan quizzes Carla about Swain and the vibe between them. Carla's speechless but admits to their almost moment and then is speechless again. Ryan saw them pretend not to look at each other and jokes that Carla wants to kiss her and it's 2024. He reckons that they're pining for each other.
Yeah.
Well done, Ryan.
Yeah. He's like, it's 2024. It's fine. Whatever. Everybody, as long as consent is involved, nobody cares, or nobody should care.
So, Betsy's mood is there to dictate what kind of day Swain's having, or what Swain does next. So, Betsy is loving and attentive and saying it's just you and me against the world sort of thing. So, Swain deletes a text that she's going to send to Carla.
Right.
And when Betsy's a bit of a bitch to Swain earlier in the week, that's just contributing to the bad day that Swain's having, that then puts her in the mood so that the moment in the flat to music later and dubious lighting can happen.
And also, you know, kicking ass and taking names and barging into the factory to save Carla, who is a strong, independent woman. I don't understand why she was afraid of that scrawny little dude.
Well, you never know. I think it's just a little bit of a shame that it's Betsy's character that gets questioned, and maybe we think a little bit less of Betsy, that she's kind of this sort of flighty teen, when everything to do with her mood is just there to serve her mum's story.
Right. Yeah.
I'd rather it was something more to do with her. But anyway.
This is true.
So, at the station, Kit is stressed after talking to Joel's mum, and Tinker has had no leads from the CCTV.
And Tinker has had a haircut.
Swain tries to offer advice, but Kit is very protective of this case and reminds her that he's lead detective. Kit's an asshole today.
Yeah, not just in this storyline.
Right. Later, Swain tells him he's a good detective, but his ambition is clouding his judgment. Kit thinks the same could be said about Swain, who just wants Joel to be dead. The neatest conclusion considering Swain's personal vested interests. Swain leaves it at that. And although it's late and it's clocking off time, Kit sends Tinker off to expand the ANPR range, which will take him all night.
Which is fine because he's single.
Yes. And that's as
And
far
his
as
mum has left him.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
And his only family member now is Kirk. So wouldn't you rather just work all night?
Holy
Craig?
moly. Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather just work all night?
Yeah, you might as well.
You might as well.
Yeah, so this has been much looked forward to in the Swarla fraternity. And I think it delivered as far as that's concerned. And I see an awful lot of happy people on Twitter talking about this.
Seeing the spaghetti get boiled.
Correct.
Bringing
the
it all
Chinese
back.
spaghetti, yeah.
To the Chinese. As
No,
pretty
bring
much
it back to
everything.
the spaghetti.
As everything does.
It does beg the question, what on earth is happening with the Joel case, though? Doesn't it? We're
We
no
don't-
further forward.
We get very little of that this week.
We still don't have a body.
No.
Has he killed himself?
Who knows? Or has somebody done him in, as
All
Eliza Doolittle would say.
all the signs were pointing to this being faked,
Right.
either last week or the week before. Last week, I
Yeah,
think.
last week.
And we completely seem to have forgotten about that, which was a bugbear for me last week and still is.
No, because at least Kit mentions the fact that, Swain was very quick to jump on to, oh, well, yes, he obviously did die by suicide because he wrote this note
Right.
when the note is on a very clean piece of paper.
Which they took time to investigate.
Right. Yeah,
See, Kit was there for that.
he was.
It was him that found it.
It was.
Well, that's interesting. But then Kit would surely be happy to play along with the suicide explanation then, and he seems to be more convinced
And
that
let's not forget, because it kind of feels like the show has forgotten, Kit planted evidence in Nathan's van.
shall we pop that onto Wendy's list of things that the show's forgotten? We haven't looked at that in a little while.
Yeah, and the Nathan character is gone forever, so they're obviously not ever coming back to that.
He planted evidence and he did something else that was kind of dodgy, didn't he? Oh yeah, he was selling the t-shirts.
Oh yeah,
In fact, as far as we know, he's still selling the t-shirts.
yeah,
What else is on the things that
and he has very hairy hands, and you know what that means.
the show's forgotten? Damon is a child abuser. Stu had a deadly cough. Roy gave everything to Nina and then never took it back. Toya is a murderer. Chesney was learning sign language. What happened to antisocial Lauren? What did happen to antisocial Lauren?
Did happen to antisocial Lauren.
Hope Stape's fire starting tendencies. Well, they didn't.
Well, we've
no,
come back to that.
We've come back to that, so we can score through that. That's been remembered.
It's been well remembered.
Sharon is the leader of Harvey's gang. Izzy's boyfriend, neighbour, I think his name was Fergus. Cinco Leo and Dad's Memorial, ? Nina is an amazing clothes designer. It's definitely forgotten about that. Carla was going to run Sinead's beard oil business. Bethany doesn't care about racist Kelly's theft of her credit card. Alright, we'll move on then to our next storyline tonight, which is where there's smoke, there's hope. Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Hope.
On Monday, Tyrone wants to go with Fizz to the termination, but she'd rather go alone and they decide to tell the girls after it's done. Ruby storms out the house in the mood while Hope tries to skive off working at the garage while she's suspended from school. Afterwards, Fizz is coping well and is about to take a nap when Hope and Ruby come in, and Hope quickly figures out that today was termination day. Privately, Hope reveals to Ruby that she got paid for her day at the garage, so she's heading down to the precinct to stock up on the fucking vapes, man. Ruby is pissed off at the unfairness and reckons that Fizz would have kept the baby if Hope wasn't such a fucking bomb scare. Tyrone calls on peace, for Fizz's sake. Ruby threatens to grass up Hope, not scared of her big sister now that she's taller than her, but they're interrupted when Fizz suggests watching a movie like a proper family.
Yeah. Hope can still kick your ass though, Ruby.
I don't know. I saw a little flicker of Hope kind of winding her neck in a little bit when Ruby was losing her temper a bit.
Hope is still the more muscular of the two. She can kick ass.
On Wednesday, Hope and Ruby are bickering and neither Fizz nor Tyrone are able to handle it. He thinks the kids need to think of other people for a change and explains to Fizz that Ruby is blaming Hope for the termination.
Tell that to yourself there, Tyrone.
Right. He suggests that they talk to the girls, but Fizz is fucking off to work. See ya. In Nina's roles, she chats to Cassie about still feeling less than 100%, and she's worried about how this is affecting the girls, but Cassie thinks that they did the right thing in telling them. At home, Cassie tells Hope and Ruby that they need to be more supportive and loving when Fizz comes home. They are, and promise to take care of her, but when Fizz and Tyrone go off for a bath, Ruby says she should grass Hope up, but Fizz would only worry. On Friday, with Ruby off to school, Hope is rubbing it in until she learns that Mrs. Crawshaw is doing one of those common home visits that head teachers do. Tyrone and Fizz demand Hope turns out her pockets to prove that she doesn't have a vape. And then Tyrone says, trust is earned.
Yeah.
So Crawshaw...
Yeah. Trust is earned, Tyrone. Maybe you should remember that the next time you're thinking with your penis.
Are you going to say that at the end of every sentence in this storyline?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still mad about the China thing.
So Crawshaw comes over and Tyrone and Fizz make excuses for Hope's vaping, say that she's learnt her lesson. And so Hope is gutted to learn that she'll be allowed back to school tomorrow. Tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow.
With that out of the way, Fizz and Tyrone head off to work, and Hope is right back on the vapes, but she's interrupted when Evelyn comes in to drag her to work in the shop today. So Hope leaves, and her vape starts to smoulder in the cabinet. I don't know, did she leave it switched on? I don't know how these things work.
Yeah, because she would have had to, because otherwise... And aren't those things smokeless?
I don't know. No, because you see people exhaling them and
That's
smoke comes out.
steam. Because they're
That's
essentially
boiling hot water.
Because they're water pipes, essentially, aren't they? I don't know how these things work, but it's not smoke. Because the whole point is that they're safer for your lungs, supposedly, because they're smokeless. I don't know. Who knows how these things work? We're
Probably
old.
everybody apart from us.
Yes.
Later, when Ruby gets home early from school, she just heads upstairs and doesn't notice the smoke coming from the living room. But when she does come down later, the smoke has turned into flames. Ruby stands there, doesn't know what to do, but Evelyn comes to the rescue, puts a fire blanket over the cabinet, and calls the fire brigade. The drama is over, with minimal damage done, and Evelyn treats Ruby to a milkshake at Nina's Rolls with Fizz when Tyrone comes in. He's spoken to the lead fire engine guy, and it seems that the cause of the fire was vape and cabinet.
Was it Patrick Stewart, do you think, who once played a firefighter on Coronation Street back in the day?
No.
Oh.
So Fizz drags Hope home. Ruby calls Hope a pyromaniac, then goes off with Evelyn. Hope apologises.
Ruby also says, what does Ruby say? That was hilarious that Evelyn was like giving her 2 thumbs up for. It's a familiar turn of phrase.
Get it right fucking up, you?
No.
Oh, hoisted by your own petard.
Yes. Which Evelyn was very approving of Ruby knowing that turn of phrase.
Poor Ruby. Ruby's great.
Ruby is
by the way.
great. Yeah.
So Hope apologises, but that's not good enough for Tyrone. Tells her that it's always someone else's fault, and her lies nearly burned the fucking house down.
And killed her sister.
This is who Hope is, he says, and if she doesn't change, this is how she will always be. Fizz thinks Ty has gone too far, but he tells her she needs to accept that Hope is out of control.
Yeah.
And that's as far as we get with that this week. Finally,
one of them recognizes this, but it kind of feels like the whole other storyline where Hope was a pyromaniac all over again, where Tyrone actually gets justifiably angry and Fizz makes this look like, how dare you say this to my child, who is a sweet, innocent little baby.
Yeah. It's all because Hope looks genuinely upset, but Hope frequently looks genuinely upset.
And is not
and
genuinely upset.
Right. So
It's like, I still feel like this whole storyline is absolutely ridiculous because, as Cassie pointed out a couple of weeks ago when they first discovered that Hope was vaping, vapes smell.
yeah.
They have a very particular smell.
Why is the house smelling of watermelon?
Right.
And it's like electric charge. It smells of the air is charged.
Why is Hope smelling like this still and nobody notices? Not even, what's her name? The teacher, the principal person. Crawshaw, who looks far too much like Gadass now that she's cut her hair off. I was like, what is Dr. Gadass doing here talking to them about this? And then it's like, no, wait, that's not Gaddis. That's Dr. Crawshaw.
That's Bishop Greg.
If Bishop Greg gets the same haircut, that's it. I'm not watching the show anymore.
Oh, please. Bishop Greg, get your hair cut.
He's got longer hair than both of those women.
He does.
But, you know.
And he is high as fuck.
On the vapes. On the weed vapes.
Yep.
Which you can get in this country. Yeah, but like, Crawshaw doesn't smell it? I'm sure Crawshaw knows what it smells like. I'm sure the bathrooms in that school reek of vapes.
Yep.
Just absolutely just the smelliest bathrooms you have ever been in your entire life.
Which is what the kids' bathrooms at our schools apparently smell like, according to our children.
Yes. Only those are the weed vapes.
Are they?
Apparently, kids have been weed vaping in class, hiding it in their shirts and hitting it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I once got drunk in a chemistry class. Smirnoff straight from the bottle. And I'm giving Billy a hard time last week for doing the same.
Right, yeah. But vodka at least doesn't smell.
It does, though.
Not as bad as vapes.
I mean, you open a bottle of vodka and put your nose over it. It smells.
Yeah. It doesn't really smell in your breath, though, which is weird.
I think it does. It must do.
It evaporates really quick. Down your gullet.
Yep.
But anyway, what is
What were we
up
talking
with
about?
these kids,
Oh, yeah, the kids.
vaping, and then the parents, for some reason, don't smell it?
But hey, at least Tyrone has put his foot down. I don't know what put a fire up him. Or was it the fire in his house,
I think
maybe?
it was the fire in his house.
So
yes.
that's his limit.
And the fact that Hope was lying about vaping again. And lied to Crawshaw as well.
Lied several times as well.
Yes.
This isn't one lie. This is many, many lies.
Exactly. Is she addicted to this? Is this
Apparently.
an addiction issue?
I think so. I don't know why I'm bothering to just prove that I know nothing about vaping, but I'm going to give it another go. I thought the whole point was that it isn't addictive to get you off the cigarettes, but getting off the cigarettes to be addicted to something else,
Yeah.
something that's maybe less dangerous, but still not
Right.
exactly healthy.
It still has the nicotine, but because supposedly it's smokeless, then it doesn't hurt your lungs
and
as much.
tarless, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And yet it's full of chemicals. And I'm sorry, I sound like Faye when I say it's full of chemicals,
You
but
sound a little bit like Sam as well. Formaldehyde. Apparently there's some debate over exactly what chemicals are in British vapes. Apparently I saw some commentary that it's not as horrendous as the show's making out.
yeah, those people are lying to themselves because it's
working-
not like the vapes in the UK are like specially made
Fairy vapes.
in China and only sent to the UK and everybody else gets the really dangerous kind.
Right.
That's not happening.
Yeah, it was a Mr. Vape that was making that comment, so I don't know how trustworthy it is. Maybe not. But Fizz still can't see it.
Yeah. And it's so weird.
I mean, if your house nearly burning down isn't enough to give you a bit of a wake-up
And your
call.
kid's still constantly lying.
And seeing how much it's upsetting Ruby.
Yeah.
Ruby's been furious all week
All week.
and is somewhat vindicated for that.
And you know what? I don't think they're being very fair to Ruby when Ruby says that they, blames Hope for the abortion. Because they both say when they're talking about the abortion, before they got the abortion, we're too old, which is stupid and is a bad excuse because they're not old. We're old.
Thank you. But they're bad parents, though.
Right. Yes, we're old. And also, we have our hands full with Hope. They said that. That was one of the reasons. We have our hands full with Hope. They both said it.
Well, I think
So-
Tyrone said it.
It's very unfair to Ruby to say, oh, no, it wasn't because of your sister, when that was a factor.
Well,
it wasn't the only factor.
They're not going to admit it, though. You're right.
Wasn't the only
breaking
factor.
up. We're breaking up, and it is your fault. Let's move on. Our next storyline is bully for you. On Monday, Mason is off to college thanks to a good word from Stu. Stu thinks this proves that he was right to give Mason a second chance, but Mason skips class and bumps into Betsy and Devs, and he subtly threatens her, telling a story of how he got 2 black eyes after grassing up his brother, and maybe Betsy should be expecting similar for grassing him up.
Right.
But at the precinct, Betsy and Mason have made up with some beers on the swings as they compare their shit days, where Mason's going to get kicked out of college and Betsy got fired in another storyline.
Now, who does Stu know in the college that he was able to put in a good word?
Nobody. Stu doesn't know anybody.
I believe he knows people in prison, but college?
Back on the street, Stu and Yasmeen give Mason pieces of their mind, but he ignores them and walks off.
Because apparently this college called Stu?
That's not going to happen.
Remember when the college called Swain on Betsy?
But that might be because it's sixth form college and she's still in normal secondary education.
But they supposedly go to the same college.
Which could happen. Despite this, Stu refuses to give up, while Yasmeen already has. On Wednesday, Mason is back at work at Speed Dial and Stu's worried that he's going to sabotage this chance to improve himself, but then Mason helps Stu with a difficult recipe, and Stu's impressed.
With his sweet potatoes.
Mason scoots off to college before Stu can follow him. And in the roles, Stu's planning to go off to see Eliza, leaving Yasmeen in the house with Mason, which doesn't impress her much.
No.
Stu thinks he's
That's
a
a bad
pussycat,
idea.
but returning Eileen snaps that he's a saber-toothed tiger. Welcome back, Eileen. Back at Speed Dial.
Come on, Eileen.
Back at Speed Dial, Mason had a successful day at college and challenges Stu to a sauce-off. And
It's on.
And we don't see how that transpires.
No, because then he has to leave, and his backpack is very clanky.
Yeah, we see that Mason is carrying around a crowbar and a balaclava. Eileen comes in to apologise to Yasmeen for her outburst in the cafe and says she was worried that she was letting Stu bully her into making decisions. And when Yasmeen tells Stu, he's insulted, but that doesn't change the fact that Yasmeen is scared of Mason. Stu says everyone needs someone who believes in them, and Mason isn't a wrong one. Yasmeen is unimpressed and leaves. But then Stu sees Mason footering with his bag and demands to know what's in it. Mason confesses that his brother had a job lined up and his life won't be worth living if he doesn't show up. But Stu refuses to let him go, and not a word about this to Yasmeen. He stands in front of Mason and says, "You're going to have to go through me." On Friday, Stu is definitely heading to Germany and warns Mason not to let him and Yasmeen down. Outside though, Logan is in his yellow Subaru looking menacing. "Moan then," says Stu, and Stu's giving it that, and Logan drives off noisily. Mason would have rather Stu hadn't done that, and rightly so.
Yes, because Logan is an even more wrong-un than Mason. So their parents named them Logan and Mason. Do they have a brother named Alan as well?
I don't know where you're going with this.
Short 5-letter names that for men that end in AN.
Alan's got 5 letters.
It can, if you have 2 L's in it. ALLAN. That's 5.
That's a fancy Alan. I think Alan's just ALEN, isn't it? Mostly.
It depends. But they seem like they are fancy people or they believe themselves to be above the station that they've been given in life because they've named their children Logan and Mason.
Tell you, Logan's driving about in a yellow Subaru, so he's doing something right.
Well, or maybe something very, very wrong.
To get into Yasmeen's good books, Mason offers to do the grocery shopping on his way home from college, which Yasmeen appreciates. But later, Yasmeen and Stu find that someone has panned in their living room window. And Yasmeen is quick to blame Gary, who's standing outside. But Gary thinks Mason is a better suspect.
Yes.
Stu pulls...
Gary and Adam talking about a different storyline right in front of Yasmeen's house.
Yeah. Stu pulls Yasmeen off.
And I like that.
And explains to her about their run-in with Logan earlier and his failed attempt to get Mason involved in a robbery. Yasmeen is
Fucking furious.
that she wasn't told about this earlier, and no one thought to tell the police. So when Mason comes back from Freshco, Yasmeen is still unhappy and tells him about their window getting panned in, and despite Stu's protests, Mason agrees to move out. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yeah, and he knows right away it was his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they kind of warned Stu not to do this.
Right, yeah.
Stu done it anyway.
Yes.
And because of that, he gets his window panned in.
Correct. Oh, Stu. Do you think Stu's coming back from Germany?
Sadly, yes. Do I think he's going to Germany?
Yes.
I don't know that he is.
He's going to Germany. Maybe this is his going... Because he's leaving the show.
Spoiler.
Is that a spoiler? Because it's been announced.
Yeah, but people don't read these announcements. Not everyone does a Coronation Street podcast.
That's true.
It just feels that way.
There are 2 other Coronation Street podcasts.
And the Canadian one hasn't done anything in a month.
Really? Oh, does that mean that our Canadian listeners might come back to us?
Not yet. Not yet.
There's still time.
I've got to say, I'm warming to Mason.
Yeah, well, we've been warming to Mason for a while, which makes me feel terrible
I'm officially happy to say, though.
For racist Kelly, who we have not warmed to.
Well, yeah.
We've sort of maybe started to warm to her now that she's a mother.
Yeah, I feel
But
like the show's manipulating us more with racist Kelly than it is with Mason.
yeah, it's still manipulating us with Mason, though.
Sure, but not quite as much.
Mason seems more contrite and yet also is willing to do breaking and entering with his brother. And I mean, I understand that he's only doing it because his brother will beat the shit out of him if he doesn't. But I don't know. I feel like he could take his brother. His brother could run him over with that car, though.
Yeah.
What does it
If only
say
we
about
knew
us?
some BMX bandits.
What does it say about us that we're more willing to forgive Mason than racist Kelly?
Oh, racist Kelly's always so angry.
Right, but Mason's angry a lot too. Do we just not like women who are angry? Is there something... do we have deep-seated misogyny that we haven't addressed within ourselves?
I think the show's handling it very differently for the two characters.
That's true.
I think we're... because there's a very obvious thing that racist Kelly hasn't done. She hasn't made up with Darian and isn't going to.
Right.
She
Which is
hasn't-
the show's fault because they moved Darian away very quickly.
Mm-hmm. She hasn't had any dealings with Alia, and Alia's been off the show. But
yeah. She did apologize and became friends with Gavin and Sabrina, though. But they weren't the people of color that she had a part in hurting directly.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't really help.
yeah, I think we are. I think we are warming ever so slightly with her.
Yeah.
But I think the way that they've handled Mason is
Better.
he's been more apologetic.
Yeah.
Did they make his peace with Liam? They kind of cleared it up, I feel, in the community garden
A little bit.
before Gary got involved.
But remember, it was really weird because initially he came back and he threatened again.
They threatened Liam again, yeah.
No, it wasn't Liam. It was the other one.
Oh, Dylan.
Sean's kid, Dylan.
Yeah.
He threatened Dylan again. But then that doesn't seem to have gone anywhere
That blew over the whole Betsy thing between them.
very quickly.
And I kind of like him and Betsy together.
Yeah. That feels like a safe bad boy for Betsy as opposed to,
Yeah, this is...
Joel,
I
who I
know.
hope is not dead because this is another thing that the show does that
I know.
pisses me off.
Exactly. Now, this is Stu biting off more than he can chew here, I think.
Haha.
But
Stew and chew.
But I'm trying to think of what rhymes with Yasmeen, and I'm struggling.
Has been.
Yasmeen's a has-been. That's where I was going. And Yasmeen, I think, is quite right to be worried about being left in the house with Mason. Although she didn't seem to put the kibosh on it, but who knows? They seem to be trying to make Mason come between the two of them a little bit because they have such different ideas about this. And there's no way that both ideas can be accommodated at the same time.
Correct.
Moving on then, our next storyline is putting the fun in will reading. On Monday, Summer and Billy have found Paul's final requests. It's a letter that one of his carers helped him write, apparently. So the family gather at the God flat while Summer reads the letter. Bernie gets his VHS tapes. Gemma gets his onesie. Summer gets his mug.
But it's the wrong onesie. Where did that onesie come from with the little Nordic animals and everything? Where is the unicorn onesie? That's what I thought she was getting.
That's what I thought as well. They must have thrown that out.
They must have thrown that out and they couldn't find another unicorn onesie, so they just thought they'd fob this Nordic animal, sort of LL Bean sort of looking thing on us and expect us to just accept it.
I don't think you're going to do that.
I'm not.
No.
Unicorn onesie, and I accept no substitutes. Mooses are not unicorns.
I said good day, sir.
I said good day.
Summer gets his mug, Billy gets his love. He asks that Kit, who isn't there, takes his place in the Let's Get Ready to Rumble dance. In Nina's roles, though, Kit has no fucking intention of learning any dance. He's too busy, and it's not his bag anyway, and Gemma looks crushed.
Yeah, exactly like Rana.
Later in the pub, Gemma tells Kit that he has enough time to drink, but not enough time to learn a stupid dance for a brother he knew for 5 minutes.
And he says he's at work while he's drinking. It's like, that doesn't seem like that's something you're supposed to do while you're working.
Upset, Gemma has to leave work. I've got some sympathy for Kit here.
It's not like he has to do it on stage in front of a whole bunch of people. He just has to do the dance once with Gemma, and that's it. Nobody even has to videotape it.
It'll turn into something. It'll turn into a bigger deal. It'll turn into at whim. You need to perform this stupid dance.
No, because they didn't do that with Paul.
Well, we've only seen Paul do it once.
Right. Yeah. So he only needs to do it once.
Yeah, I've got some sympathy. On Wednesday, Gemma...
I've seen you do Just Dance on the Wii.
And I still have sympathy. So that tells you everything you need to know. On Wednesday, Gemma's up late, sweltering in Paul's onesie, which probably doesn't smell much of him very much anymore.
And also is the wrong onesie.
Chesney tells her to take care of herself for a change and call in sick, but she thinks that they need the money. Chesney
Which
insists.
is true.
Later
They have fireworks to pay for.
Later, he gets home from work, reeking of garlic. After a rest, Gemma thinks that she's able to do an evening shift at the Rovers, but Chesney has got a double shift organised, so she doesn't need to. But Gemma can't rest. Her mind is going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, or slightly fast. Chesney comes back from work again, and this time he's an actual bulb of garlic, and Gemma eats, and Gemma sucks the fat out of his shirt. She wonders if they'll always...
She pretends to gobble at his shirt. She's not actually... She doesn't actually have it in her mouth.
She does.
No, she doesn't.
She wonders if they'll always be skint and hopes one of the quads will be a footballer. Or a tennis player, says Chesney, who's great at this imaginative game. And then he promptly falls asleep. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Maybe they should have just kept taking that sweet, sweet Freshco money and allowing themselves to be airbrushed all over town.
Yeah, I bet that's looking pretty sweet right now. As sweet as the garlic that Chesney is smelling of.
I had pork and garlic sauce for dinner tonight.
Yes, you did.
It was so good. It was so good. I ate the whole thing and now I'm regretting it. Because my poor tummy is too stuffed.
I had half of my Singapore chow mein fun.
Yes, you were smart.
Yeah.
Kit should just do the fucking dance. He takes himself far too seriously. Does he not recognize the fact that he is a too tall man?
He is far too tall.
Who no one takes seriously because he is too tall. And he should just lean into it and do the silly dance with his sister who is too short.
Do you know who he reminds me of? Paul Wicker, the tall vicar.
Okay, phew. Or remember the guy who also used to work at the kebab shop?
Matt.
Tall Matt?
Tall Matt. Maybe he is Tall Matt.
Maybe he's Tall Matt with a haircut.
Yep.
We never really got to see much of Tall Matt's face because his bangs were in his eyeballs.
They gave him a haircut and a wash. Threw him into the police.
And he became Kit. But not Kit, the talking car.
No.
He's a different...
Because that's what people were thinking.
Well, Kit the talking car is also a policeman.
No.
He's a police car.
No, he's not. He's a privately owned. Night Industries 2000 was a private company.
All right, he's a PI. I forget.
That's better.
It was the 80s.
Moving on, our next storyline is Nick on the move. On Friday, Nick is off flat viewing later, but in the meantime is getting under David's feet, staying at number 8, and David's paws. So David, in retaliation, chews up Nick's shoes. So does David the dog. He thinks Nick should be laying down the law to Leanne here. Talking to Shona, Nick admits that he doesn't know where he stands with Toya, who made her feelings pretty clear the other week.
Right, yeah, you should know, because
Yeah.
she told you. She
Yeah.
was very
Yeah,
specific.
you should believe her.
Yeah.
So he catches her leaving the flat, and she's pleased to see him, so she can tell him about his mail that's piling up, and
Right.
Nick is crushed.
Like Rana.
He goes to get his mail later and asks to have a chat with her, but she doesn't think there's much to talk about. Nothing's
getting
changed from her point of view.
We're getting a lot of use out of Rana this week.
Well, you are. He says he's
You
missed her.
started it.
He says he's missed her, but she thinks they're over. He wonders if they can be friends. And Toya thinks that even that's a bit too much because of Leanne, so a clean break is what's called for. And Nick bursts into tears.
He does.
Back at number 8, Nick gives David's chin a wee tickle, and he tells David that his viewings went well today, and it's currently a non-starter with Toya. David tells him to make Sam his priority, and then David takes a shit on the couch. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Chews on Nick's shoes some more.
I don't know what Nick's confused about here.
He's a man.
No, you're right, Nick. Leanne suddenly isn't Toya's sister anymore.
Right, yeah. She was very clear with you. This isn't going to happen. End of.
Focus on Sam.
It's really hilarious.
No, really. Focus on Sam.
Right. Who lives with Leanne.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to focus on your kid when he lives somewhere else with someone who now hates you.
Just think about him then.
It's really hilarious that this week there are 2 different men on the street who have a history of sleeping with 2 sisters. And both of them are tangentially attached to the Platt family.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. It's kind of funny, like how when Jesse shows up, everybody's like horrified about the fact that he also slept with Eileen's sister while he was dating Eileen. And it's like Leanne and Toya are right there.
Yep.
And Nick's not the first man they've shared. It's 2024. It's fine now.
R.I.P. Imran. On Monday,
And Peter,
David is fretting about the proposed...
who may as well be dead because he's on a boat.
Our final storyline tonight is Exit Story for a Soap Legend. On Monday, David is fretting about the proposed sale of number 8 and trying to divvy up the contents. Anything that works is his. Anything that's broken, that's Gail's.
But what if it's half and half?
There are still concerns about Bethany being fit to travel, but Gail is committed to get her home. Apparently, David has checked with Adam to see if Gail can sell a house that she owns, and Adam confirmed that she can. Quelle surprise. David and Shona are resigned to finding some other place to live, and privately, Gail talks to Shona about David's reaction to this, explaining that they must get Bethany home, and she was planning on downsizing anyway. Later, Gail is already
Why
bought...
why did she buy that house if she was planning on downsizing eventually
to get
anyway?
it right up, David.
That's true. So maybe she shouldn't be surprised that David's upset by this.
Well, maybe David should just buy the house off her. Problem solved.
She bought the house off him.
No, she bought the house off Debbie.
Right, because of the sinkhole.
No, because of the skyscraper.
Which caused the sinkhole.
No,
Yes.
the skyscraper didn't cause a sinkhole.
Yeah. The whole like undermining the street and weakening the infrastructure caused the sinkhole.
Oh, that's right, somehow Ray Weinstein caused a sinkhole. I keep on
Right?
forgetting that. Because he hired a mole.
To dig under the street and also to invent floating guns.
Well done.
Thank you.
I wondered if we were going to get a floating gun mention this week. Later, Gail is already boxing stuff up when news comes through that the decision will be made regarding Bethany's ability to fly tomorrow. David comes in and apologises, realising that Bethany is the most important thing.
Yeah. Don't you find that sus?
Yeah. Oh, he was totally unbelievable. I
That
thought.
all of a sudden he's fine with everything. I wonder why that's so. What does David know about that very few other people on the street know about except for Adam and a person in prison and Daniel?
Did David know about that?
Adam told David first because remember, David was the one who was supposed to be checking the messages.
I don't think he mentioned it.
I think he did.
No, I don't think he did.
I think he did. It's the only thing that makes sense.
No, they talked about... No, I think he's just pretending.
No, I mean about something else that happens later. The final scene of the... But anyway.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to it.
Then Gail sneaks off to take a secret call. On Wednesday, Gail is still on her secret call the next day, leaving a message this time though. Bethany's plane is delayed and David wants to be at the hospital when she arrives. Gail tells him to hold fire until Sarah calls. Meanwhile, at number 1, it's Ken's birthday. Happy birthday, Ken. 85 years young. And it's only Daniel who seems to give a fuck, but even he'd rather talk about Bethany and is worried that Sarah was right, and he did make Bethany feel secure.
Insecure.
I'm 85, says Ken. Later.
And I don't feel a day over 70. Womp womp.
Later.
Only he's not really 85 in real life.
No, he's older than that.
He's much older than that.
Later, Gail is back on her secret call when Audrey cooes into the house, and Gail quickly hangs up. Bethany is still in her Turkish goonie, and she's back in Weather General. She's still packed full of sepsis and is very poorly. Daniel comes in, and Sarah rolls her eyes. Ugh, this guy. And he refuses to leave when Sarah tells him to go. And so Sarah and Daniel have it out about him dinging her calls for Daisy while Bethany lies there and watches. Sarah finally agrees to leave them to it.
Bethany's like, I'm not deaf, you know.
Bethany isn't impressed when she hears Daniel's story. She tells him to go be with Daisy if that's what he wants, and he tells her how terrified he was while she was in hospital and that she's his world. Sorry, Bertie. Gail arrives and tells Bethany how many people care about her and how pleased they are to have her home.
In fairness, he says, you and Bertie are my world.
Nobody cares about fairness. Bethany promises to pay back the $100,000 or whatever it is, and she apologises for being stupid. Gail whispers that all she wants is Bethany better. Gail's in a whispering mood this week.
Yes.
We all want a better Bethany, Gail, every single one of us. Meanwhile, on the street, a taxi pulls up, and it's Eileen's ex. It's Jazz Club Jesse.
Woohoo!
What the flaming fuck are you doing here? Says Eileen.
Ya clown.
And he explains that he's here to see someone else, and that someone else is Gail. Eileen's chin hits the deck, and she demands answers. It turns out Jesse and Gail met in Thailand and became close.
And then her eyes buck out because Eileen is now part of a Tex Avery cartoon.
And the noise. Oh, dear me. I'm stood right here, says George.
Yes, that was hilarious.
Back at the hospital, Daniel apologises if he made Bethany feel insecure, but Bethany takes the blame for being too sensitive about Daisy. Back at number 8, Gail brings Jessie up to speed with Bethany, and they reminisce about Thailand until Audrey comes in, who has already spoken to Eileen, who explains that Jessie cheated on Eileen with her half-sister, Julie Carp.
Come on, Eileen.
Who gets many a mention this week. And she wants to know what his intentions are with Gail. It was a holiday romance, and they've remained friends ever since, but that's it. Audrey doesn't think Gail does platonic, and leaves. In the pub, Eileen thinks Jessie and Gail are an item, and she wouldn't be surprised if they were seeing each other back in the day too. She thinks Gail is heading for disaster. On Friday, David goes to visit Bethany and apologises for any part that he played in her cosmetic surgery nightmare. Bethany, to her credit, doesn't blame him for any of it. Not everything is about you, David.
Yeah.
Nick runs into Jessie, who knows him thanks to Gail's photographs and knows of his relationship with Toya. Jessie has picked up some odd jobs at Victoria Court, so that's nice, isn't it, Helen?
Yes. And also, Jessie says, hey, I hear you hit 2 sisters. Nice.
And another jazz club reference. Nice. Jesse then interrupts Adam and Daniel, who are loudly talking about Damon's ill-gotten money in the lockup on the Lancia Road, and introduces himself again. Jesse seems to know everything about everyone. Daniel again tells Adam not to get involved in the Damon thing. Jesse finds a tougher audience in Shona, David and Sarah, Nina's roles, who's sitting down for an inquisition.
Shona likes him.
Yeah. What are his intentions with Gail? David's never heard Gail mention this holiday romance before, and Jesse is feeling like he's been waterboarded, but admits that they saw each other when she told everyone she was going to a life drawing class. Shona calls Gail Olympic Torch because she never goes out. But she's played a lot of them. Next on the list for Jesse is Steve, and he opens up his heart to Steve about his feelings for Gail and how he suspects that they're unrequited, but this time with Gail has been the time of his life.
Has Steve slept with two sisters before?
I don't think so.
He slept with Leanne. Did he ever sleep with Toya?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's a shame.
Steve
There's still time.
Right.
They're both single right now.
Steve tells him to tell Gail how he feels. Against Daniel's advice, meanwhile, Adam goes to speak to Sarah and comes clean about Damon's message and deleting
Finally.
it. She's initially, fucking furious.
As she should be.
Yep. But seems to see sense that it was ill-gotten money. Sarah thinks it was her decision to make, though.
Yeah.
Again, quite
correctly.
right.
Yes.
And for some reason, Adam doesn't drop Daniel further in it.
Which was weird.
I know. Meanwhile, well, Daniel said.
Right, yeah. It will make you
By
look
the
better,
way.
Adam.
Because Adam's Billy Connolly now. See.
That was a very bad Billy Connolly.
That was good. Meanwhile, Daniel is going to see Bethany, who is coming to terms about her stoma, and she pities the people who have had to put up with her stupid decision-making. She reckons that Daniel will be better off without her, and the relationship has changed, and she sends him packing. It's Turkey all over again. Gail meets Jesse in the pub later, and he tells her that he wishes that he'd left Thailand with her back then, but she doesn't want to look back, she wants to look to the future. He tells her that he's nuts about her, and wants to see if this could be something special. So she takes him home for dinner, and to a bemused David and Sarah, she reveals that she and Jesse are in love, and if anyone doesn't like it, they can lick all four of their balls. Later, Sarah gives Damon a call on his bum phone to thank him for his offer, but there's some crossed wires because Damon thinks Sarah took the money because the lockup has been found empty by Baz. But Sarah never took the money. Well, in that case, who the fuck's taking it?
David!
And that's how we end this week's episodes.
I'm pretty sure David knows about this. Either because he did listen to Sarah's messages at some point, because he also had the code, or because Adam told him and we've forgotten that Adam has told him. Because of this complete 180 that David has about being homeless, it kind of feels like he's taken that money so they won't be homeless.
Well, the suspects are Adam, too obvious, right?
Who obviously didn't do it.
Jesse, who wouldn't know the code.
Right, and also doesn't know about it.
Well, he does, because Adam and Daniel were talking about it very loudly as Jesse walked up to them.
Yeah. But,
Which was weird.
right, but they didn't specify where it was.
They said the name of the road, which was even more suspicious. But they didn't say the code.
Right.
The code wasn't mentioned. So I think Jesse is maybe a bit of a red herring, but that scene was very, very weird.
Daniel. But
Or
why
Daniel,
would-
but why would Daniel do
why
it
would
when he was
Daniel
so
take
against it
Yeah.
in the first place? So,
Or maybe Baz is lying and Baz took it.
right. But if that's the case, well,
That doesn't matter.
no, who cares about that?
Nobody cares about... Do you know what Baz looks like?
No,
Have we ever seen Baz?
I don't think so.
No. I do like seeing more of Damon though, and I liked the whole split screen with the two of them when they both kind of sat up and said, "Wait a second, what?" That was great. I liked that.
Yeah. I don't remember them waving their arms a bit like that, though. Or maybe Sarah
It was
did.
dark.
It was dark.
It was dark, especially Damon.
God knows why they had mood lighting, though, right?
And we're playing that cheesy soft pop.
Bob the Builder. That got to number 1 in the UK.
it
That
did.
was a Christmas #1, if I remember correctly.
Was there like a Christmas Bob the Builder movie?
No.
There was a Bob the Builder movie, though, at one point, wasn't there?
Was there? I don't know.
I think so.
Actually, my problem is that I don't remember Adam telling David anything, because at that point, I think Adam was keeping those cards close to his chest, but he did say that he'd listened to the messages. So maybe that was the prompt that would have got David to then go in and listen to it.
Right.
Because at that point, Adam was still deliberating over whether he should delete it or not.
Right.
So it's definitely a possibility.
David did have the phone code
If you listen
to
to the
listen
message.
to the message. Well, he would need that to listen to the messages, the phone code.
Yeah, and Sarah had given him that.
Right.
So David is really the one that has the most motive for
The motive
for
and
doing this.
and also the weird 180 change about not being mad about being homeless.
Sarah's going to blame Adam.
Yeah.
Why would Adam take it though?
There's no reason for Adam to take it. And Adam wouldn't have confessed to her if he had taken it.
No.
Yeah, and that may be the moment that Adam throws Daniel under the bus. Finally.
To push blame on it Daniel for this, who also
Yes.
didn't do it.
Right.
Well, that'd be great. I love seeing Daniel getting it tight for things that he didn't do.
Yes.
That's one of my favourite things.
Yes. Me too.
Jesse, your thoughts. Are you familiar with the work of John Thompson?
I am not.
So he's a comedian.
I like him. I did have a hard time with the whole, he used to be a professional clown, though. Because every time they said that, all I could picture in my head was John Wayne Gacy. I don't know why.
Well, you have John Wayne Gacy in your head most days, though, right?
Ugh, it's terrible. I wish he'd get out.
Get out.
Get out, you bad, bad ghost.
Oh, your big clown shoes.
Your big red nose.
So every time I see John Thompson, I think The Fast Show and I think Jazz Club. And I think I'm saying nice.
See, I didn't even know he said that when I said nice. Wow.
That was what made me think that you did know.
Yeah, I didn't know.
So my problem is that I think he's a comedic actor trying to be funny in this role.
Yeah.
And there are times when he is funny.
Yes.
But when he says things that he loves Gail, that's not meant to be funny. He's being serious there.
I think he's genuine.
So I'm
Or
just
is
having,
he genuine? Because, like, she kept saying, no, don't come here. It's a bad time. And he did it anyway. So is there something else going on here? Is he scamming her somehow?
Well, it's been 14 years since he's been in the show.
Yeah.
I don't know if that still
And
means that
also-
he has a deep, dark secret, but it
And
gives him plenty
also-
of time to get one.
And also, let's not forget, he was the second choice.
Well, this is what I'm about to ask you. Now, you don't know Martin.
No,
That's before your time.
it is.
I'm wondering how much the change has been made here
Right.
to accommodate this, because
Right. The whole, we met in Thailand thing.
that could easily have applied
Right.
to Martin if he was, because he lives in New Zealand. So it's easier to get to Thailand from New Zealand than it is from the UK, I guess.
That's
So
true.
So he could have met Gail in Thailand.
And rekindled the relationship.
So I don't know if the re-engineering of this is all that extreme, other than to get Eileen involved in it, because Eileen had no relationship with Martin. But here we have Jesse with some, but those are minor changes. I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
So is every line that John Thompson's saying was a line that was intended for Sean Wilson?
I don't know. I like him.
Yeah, and that's him
He's
doing
likable.
his job. He is very likable.
Yeah. Yeah. To the point where I'm kind of like, what is Sarah and David's problem? This guy has done nothing to make him sus or anything.
It's the history with Eileen, I think. Because Gail and Eileen are
Right.
super enemies.
Right. But they were super enemies before this.
Mm-hmm.
That was never going to change. So why would it make you mad that they have like a valid reason now? And also, would Eileen still... the whole idea that... I mean, it was hilarious because like she's so mad thinking that he's come back for her.
After 14 years. Tickets
Right.
on yourself, Eileen?
And yet she becomes even madder when she finds out that that wasn't the case, that he's there for Gail.
Right.
You know, and that's when George says, I'm standing right here.
Mm-hmm. Tomahawk.
We share a bed,
Right.
which was funny. But I don't know. I like him. I think this is fun and good for Gail for getting a little on the side and not letting her family know and pretending to instead be going every week to draw nude men
Yeah.
and women.
He's a little young for her.
Is he?
A little.
He doesn't look too young for her.
I think in I don't know how old Gail's meant to be in the show. I know that Helen Worth and Sue Nichols are quite close in age. Far too close for them to be mother and daughter.
Correct. We've talked about that before.
Right.
And the fact that it's hilarious.
But I don't think the age difference is so much that it's unbelievable.
No. They look believable together.
And I don't know if I would have preferred Martin in this situation or not. I think Martin for the more... For the bigger impact on Gail's life, given that they were married and they had David.
I feel like if it were Martin, it would justify David and Sarah being so mad, as opposed to just some random guy who used to live on the street, who their mom met, that they don't really know.
A reasonable complaint about this, though, is for this being Gail's exit story, so far, Gail's featured very little in it. It's more about Jesse's return, but maybe that's just this week.
Right.
I'd like Gail's exit story to feature lots and lots of Gail.
Yes.
If she's going away, can we use her as much as possible before she leaves for the final time? Because
We do get a lot of her, but not with Jesse mostly. It's more, her sitting with Bethany in the hospital, and her being very self-righteous about we had to do this for Bethany, and, kind of ignoring the fact that there are other members of the family.
yeah. I don't know what else. I don't know what else anyone could have done in that situation.
Yeah, except for take Damon's money, which nobody knew about it but Adam
Right.
and Daniel. Two people who are not even
I mean,
related to them anymore.
get travel insurance, folks, and read the small print. This is why people have to get travel insurance.
Yeah, we never get travel insurance.
No. Well, we're insured here.
Yeah.
Like if I broke my leg when we were out in Kansas, our insurance would have covered it.
Right, yeah.
But when I was visiting here, if I'd broken my leg,
You would have been shit out of luck.
I'd been shit out of luck, exactly.
Because let's not forget how horrible the healthcare system is in this country.
Yeah, and the numbers that they're parading about for Turkey, it's very much the experience here. I mean, every night that you're in hospital, here's like $5,000 or whatever.
We could have snuck you across the border to Canada. They would have served you up very nicely.
With my broken leg.
Yeah. They would have taken care of you.
All right.
They're nice up there.
That was the week. There was Coronation Street. Helen, tell me, what was your moment of the week?
It's gotta be Carla and Swain, doesn't it?
Yes, it has. I mean,
Even
we're not
with
playing
the
to the
mood
gallery
lighting.
here.
Even with the mood lighting and the cheesy music.
Some fly by night. Mood lighting. Not moonlighting, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
That's an 80s TV show. I mean, if that's not our audience. I don't know what it is. Swain and Carla nearly getting it on.
Nearly
Is our-
smooching.
Is our
Moment of the week.
boring moment of the week.
Ken's 81st birthday.
Ken's what?
Ken's
85th.
Ken's 85th birthday.
Ken's 85th birthday that was attended by Daniel.
And some cards.
And Daniel didn't want to talk about it for 1 second.
No.
That is our
Boring moment of the week.
on to our non-scientific weekly Twitter poll. Every week I ask our Twitter followers to rank the show as yay, meh, or zzz, depending on their views on it. And the results were this. Zzz, 21.3%, meh, 26.2%, and yay, 52.5%.
Wow.
Back to a super positive result
I think
after a
that's-
couple of bad weeks.
I think that's all down to Carla and Swain, isn't it?
I kind of think so too.
Because really, what else went on this week?
Friday was a bit of a nothing burger in an awful lot of ways, wasn't it?
It was.
I mean, the house nearly burned down, but
Right.
still. It
It's not
didn't
like
burn
that's.
down.
It's not like that's the first time.
Right.
Remember when the show said Hope wasn't going to be like that anymore?
I do,
They
and
were
I
going to
remember
make
you-
Hope like a normal kid.
I remember you saying this last week.
Yeah.
We
I'll
don't-
keep saying it.
We don't let the Twitter poll sway our opinion, though. So, Helen, what is your score out of 10?
5.5.
Feel as bad as that?
Well, look. Besides the Carla and Swain bit, everything else was kind of a nothing burger. And I kind of feel bad saying that because let's not forget Fizz got an abortion this week.
Yep. That doesn't happen every week,
No. Very little is made of it, though.
which is probably good.
Like, we don't go to the hospital for it.
I liked the Jessie stuff, and I liked the Swain stuff, obviously.
I did like the Jessie stuff, too, but I don't know.
And I kind of liked the Mason stuff. I didn't like the Stew stuff. So I think I'm going to give it a 7 this week.
Oh, fair enough.
It's still a reasonable score. I think
Yeah.
it's certainly better than it's been for the past couple of weeks.
I'm going to bump mine up to a 6.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because I forgot about Fizz's abortion. And I feel
That's
really
worth an
bad.
extra half mark.
I feel really bad because, it feels like that should be a more important storyline than it's given credit for being. 'Cause
Oh, I meant to ask you, do you think she really did get an abortion?
yeah,
I think so too.
yeah, because she's kind of pale and sickly and holding her tummy
Yeah.
and laying on the couch. So something happened.
Right.
But I think they should have made more of the fact that this is an important aspect of the abortion discussion, is the fact that, people like to think that it's just irresponsible single women who just can't be bothered.
Sluts and tramps.
Right. And cat ladies, single cat ladies.
Right.
Whereas sometimes it's a family that already has children that just can't afford any more.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope next week we have a storyline where Tyrone gets a vasectomy. That's what I hope.
And I hope Kev performs it in the garage.
Because that would be the responsible thing to do if you have decided, you know what, we don't want any more kids. And it's much less invasive than Fizz getting her tubes tied.
I agree.
Yes.
We'll look forward to that happening next week.
I want to see Tyrone laid out on the couch wearing his MSU Spartans t-shirt with an ice pack on
I
his
don't want
pelvis.
to associate our MSU t-shirt with Tyrone's testicles. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast: Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Trisha, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B, Brittany Porter, Laurie, Anna, and Tina.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, folks. If you've ever performed a vasectomy in a backstreet garage, write in to tell us about it. We're the Talk of the Street at gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street, or patreon.com/the Talk of the Street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store, YouTube channel and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes of your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
We didn't do one this week because Gav was sick, so if you want to know what we thought about Joker Off Do or whatever the fuck it's called, you're going to have to go to Letterboxd. Gaviano and Helen Broom.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode, and we will be back next week with more
I'll talk of the street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.